Hey there folks, and welcome back to the Dammâseq Campaign. Last time we got started with a very lengthy discussion of the goals of the campaign and our starting situation, also went over all of the ideas and got that part set up, and talked a little bit about our starting character here, Ipter Dagon and his wife, Tabua, and their situation. But we didn't get very far whatsoever. That was probably my slowest paced first episode I've ever done so far. But there is so much to talk about with this mod, especially. I think it is worthwhile to take our time, and ultimately I do hope to play this campaign at a pretty slow pace and just really enjoy how the experience of this campaign kind of occurs. So, with all that being said, let's continue the prep. Hopefully we unpause in this episode, but I'm not making any promises necessarily. We'll see what happens. Either way, let's go ahead and continue here. So last time we left off on the plan to reorganize our government, so we're going to do that now. Now, the way to do this in a smart way... I thought that might have been the Age Mythology music in the background. No, this is different music, although this is pretty good too. I don't recognize this song offhand. I don't know if you can hear it in the video. Oh, whatever the case. It has kind of a Middle Eastern vibe to it, which is appropriate. So, step one is to find everyone that's really low on loyalty and fire them first, so that they can be fired, otherwise we have to bribe them. So this guy here, for example, he's just above disloyalty. Now he's going to be disloyal for a moment. We're going to fix that in a second here. Let me check and see. What were the loyalties of my researchers? I'll fire this guy next. Hold on. What am I trying to do here? Here we go. Dismiss. And then these guys I'll come back to in a moment. Back over here, loyalty-wise. Just trying to make sure, do it very carefully so I'm not accidentally creating disloyalty for myself. Alright, I think I did the order right. Send these guys out, and then go back over here, fire these guys. And I think we did that all right. Perfect. Okay, so we didn't need to do any loyalty boosting actions just to clear everybody out. So the reason we're doing this is we want to actually reorganize our government and reassign everybody to the best positions possible. And we start here by going back over to the researchers and looking for characters with research traits. Now, I will say that in my test games, I couldn't confirm if these research traits still work properly. It seemed as though they might not, and so it might be worth actually not going for the traits in order to get better qualified characters. That being said, even though in this campaign we are going to start off with, a monarchy, it's not just a tribe, so we will be getting some amount of citizens and nobles and their ensuing research points. That being said, though, we're not going to really have enough population for a lot of research right away, so it's not really that big of a deal to have really qualified researchers, and I would rather either have characters with the traits or just kind of have the researchers be leftover family characters. Looks like we only have one character with the trait, and this is a character from the Aberrid family. He's got polymath, so this guy is not amazing, so I think he would probably be fine just being assigned as our martial or our oratory researcher. I think we'll come back to this guy later, so let's remember that Abalim is potentially reserved for a research slot, just so that we may be able to see if the trait works or not. I'm not sure if the traits do work or not, but in my test games I never saw these innovation events pop up. Whatever the case, maybe in this mod it's bugged or it's not supposed to work like that. We'll come back to that later. Alright, so over here in the offices, I think the most important offices are Royal Tutor, Chancellor, and High Priest. Let's start with Royal Tutor. So we do have Sargon, Milkramid. This is a guy from my wife's family, actually. No bad loyalty traits. Actually, he has two good loyalty traits, Forgiving and Steadfast, which is ideal. This guy would actually be a pretty good... Well, actually, no, he's just good for this position. There's no other position I can think of that he'd be better for. So let's go ahead and assign him to be Royal Tutor. That being said, we only have one high charisma character, and that's this guy, so... Is Royal Tutor or Chancellor better for him? I guess is the question. And I think Royal Tutor is probably better, so let's make sure that he's going to the Royal Tutor position. At the start of the game, I don't need AE change very much. We may later on, but I think I can manage AE perfectly fine after the practice I got in the Xiongnu campaign. So let's go ahead, whoops, and assign that guy. Alright, make sure my recording didn't get screwed up. Yeah, we're good. Alright. So he's going to be the Royal Tutor. Next up, let's go ahead and assign the we should assign a good character for Chancellor, honestly. So let's assign Hunabum Mashid. This is our next best charisma character, so this will have to do. There's Abalim there, so let's save him. Over into High Priest. Melkart Piles Mashid. And also, by the way, like the Dammâseq campaign, I'm not going to be using any of the Latin pronunciation of anything. I think that's obvious because I didn't do it last episode, but just to be thorough in stating that for the record, we're definitely in a place in time and space where no one's speaking Latin, so I'm not going to use the... Like in Latin, this might be pronounced as Melkarpies. Actually, I guess in Latin... Well, I don't know actually how it would work in classical Latin. Whatever the case, we're not going to use that, so we're just going to pronounce it in the English manner, Melkart Piles Mashid. And he's going to be our High Priest after we've just talked about him a whole bunch, so looks fine. No bad loyalty trait. No, I don't know why I'm looking at loyalty traits. This guy's selfish, but it doesn't matter because these are just officers, so their loyalty doesn't matter. What I should do is consider family head loyalty traits. That's probably a bit more important. Alright, the next most important position is probably Steward for the national tax. Here we have Ahiram Milkiramid, and he is another family member. I don't know why I'm looking at loyalty traits so much. Now, I might want to save some good finesse characters to be governors, or good martial characters to be governors, but I'm actually, again, like I'm nearby a region split that I could get into with Kadesh, but I'm not really quite next to it. There is some uncolonized land between myself and this Kadeshi province. We'd have to colonize our way into Kadesh, and in this mod, colonization is changed quite a bit. It's a lot harder to do colonization, so we won't probably go into Kadesh anytime soon, unless I have some reason that comes up to do that. So we can probably safely use good finesse characters for other roles, like this guy here to be my steward. So let's assign him. Alright, next up, Master of the Guard. I think this guy would be fine for that. Yeah, multi-military experience is pretty important. And then Court Philosopher is probably next most important. I can probably get away with a non-family character at this point. I've assigned only family characters so far. And I do want to have a good Court Philosopher, so this guy here, Adonabal Ormitba, he'll be my Court Philosopher. We're going to probably become a regional power within the first 5 to 10 episodes, so we'll end up probably having a lot of these characters become part of our new family when that happens, so they won't be non-family characters for that long. Marshal here, I think Marshal's not that important, honestly, so I might... Well, yeah... We do have 6 cohorts by default with our starting population. We have a large enough population to not have that no minimum levy size mod have any effect on us, so that's convenient. We don't necessarily need any mercenaries. With that being noted, I don't think Marshal's a super important position, therefore. So I might hold off. I think I'll go ahead and assign Abba Lim to that researcher position. I think we've confirmed that he doesn't need to be anywhere else critically. So let's go ahead and assign him to be my martial researcher. So we can potentially get some traits, or rather get some innovations through his trait. Alright, perfect. So now let's go back over here, and with this in mind, I actually think that Martial and Physician are both less important than the research traits in terms of the order of importance. So let's just assign the remaining... Okay, this guy is really, really good for Martial. This guy's also currently my heir. He's going to be a pretender once I find a way to make my daughter the heir, or if I have a son, which could happen. So let's go ahead and make him the finesse researcher, Barak Bal Abarid. Alright, and then down here, 6 charisma is totally fine. Family character as well. There is the family head, by the way, for the Mashids. He should be my zeal researcher, actually, so let's go ahead and assign that to him. And this to that guy. And that's actually all of the families happy now. So the families, by the way, so the ruling family are the Abarid family, or is the Abarid family with me in charge, obviously. I'm the family head, Ipter Dagan. And then you've got the family my wife's from, the Milkiramids. And I do appreciate, by the way, that she's actually from that family. Not mechanically, but at least in the name. This may be a coincidence, but this may also be how it's set up to represent how there's an internal marriage within the nation. I actually kind of appreciate that detail, because that is something that would happen in this time period, and really in most of history, there'd be these internal marriages. This guy here, Umashtar Milkiramid, is the family head. He doesn't need to be in an office, actually, and he's pretty bad, so I'm happy to use the other guys from the family. There are 3 other guys that I could assign instead of him, so that's convenient. Then over here, this guy's the researcher. Researcher's a pretty safe position for family heads, because there's not a lot of power base in being the researcher. There are some other characters, actually, I could assign alternatively, like this guy here with the 7 finesse. That being said, having the family head be in an office does make him happier, so that's probably smart. I've noticed in my test games that, I think I commented about this last episode, but in the Bronze Age Reborn mod, there does tend to be a lot of trouble you get into with managing your family heads. They seem to have a lot of loyalty problems, so it's good to kind of preemptively boost up your family head loyalty as best you can. But this may also just be, as I have played the game more and more, I focus in on these sort of finer details and I'm paying more attention to it. Whatever the case, so now with all this stuff organized, we can go ahead and assign our last couple positions just for merit, I suppose. So, yeah, let's go ahead and assign Baal Zakarb over here. He can also build up some statesmanship, so he may become a good general governor later on with his marshal. And then for a physician, we'll assign Milkpiles Eshbelid. Confusingly, a very similar first name to the last name of that other family, but these are both minor characters. So that is that. Good stuff. That is my government all organized. And now, we're going to go out of order again very briefly here to go ahead and start our mission, the matter of Herman. Herman is, of course, our starting region, and this is convenient that the matter mission is for our own region. This is not always a guarantee, so I'm kind of glad that that worked out like that. So I want to do this first to get my court consultation going so I can see what my claims I'll get in 1 year are, so that I can then know what claim I will want from the war council I'm about to do after this. So, our fortunes await in foreign lands. The Herman region has been considered part of our borders, yet much of it remains beyond our control. Make sure that it is brought under our influence one way or another. This mission will be considered complete when the entire region of Herman is under Dammâseqian influence. Alright, let's start the mission. Okay, so this is going to be definitely doable, because this just requires colonization. Actually, it does require a lot of colonization, but we'll come back to that later. Consult the court. So 1st of January, 786, we will get this. This gives us claims on Damascus Oasis, which is our home province. That's not very helpful. Gives us a claim on Fige Spring, which is an area I do want to go into because this is a very lush area to control, and it's defensible too. And a claim on Sa'aru, which is, I believe, just the one south of us. So that's pretty straightforward. So this is actually pretty convenient because these are all areas that are right next to me that I either already control or already have a lot of access to. So that should be pretty straightforward. Honestly, with that in mind, probably the direction... Actually, everywhere that I border, I'm going to get claims on from this, so I don't really even need the War Council. I will do it just to get the claim faster. I kind of hope the claim I get is actually on Barada, because they are splitting the Fige Spring province with me, and also, I guess, with Erneh. But this would be probably the best nation to target first, because this is very valuable land. Although, let me think about it, actually. Where's my population located? Population is basically just within my own territories. There's no population split I could do. The Armenian population is very small over here. Whatever the case, yeah, so really any direction I go in, it's going to be new populations to worry about. I do think that strategically getting Barada first is a good step, though, because that is also the sort of edge of the Herman region, so we can kind of fortify this and then move on to other directions. So I'm kind of hoping the claim, the council... The War Council gives me a claim on Barada, but we shall see what we get. So let's go ahead and summon the War Council. I'm going to do this every 10 years on the cooldown as best I can, because this is quite a powerful tool. As you can tell at the moment, we don't necessarily need this right this second, but this does give us a war target for February 1st, when you're allowed to go to war. You have a 1-month grace period where no one can declare war. Otherwise, we'd have to wait the full year for the claim to finish, or for the consult the court mission to finish. This is a bit confusing because we're doing the War Council and then there's Consult the Court. I get them mixed up sometimes, but you know what I'm saying. So we're going to summon a selection of our closest advisors to determine a good direction for our next conquest, and provide a claim on a neighboring province every 10 years. So let's go ahead and get this going. Alright, the War Council assembles. All Dammâseq sleeps as the War Council drags well on into the night. Assembled are 3 brilliant Dammâseqian minds summoned to provide insight, each determined to convince us of the validity of their argument. Baal, a well-loved and competent leader, Milkpiles, a well-known rogue and philanderer, and Hunabum, an advisor of uncertain standing. In fierce competition with each other, our advisors parry and counterattack, engaging in a melee of oratory that would put the ancient bards to shame. As the hours drag on, it becomes clear that Milkpiles and Baal are in agreement that we must look to Saurian lands for our next campaign. Hunabum, however, believes strongly that the lands of Erneh are much more suitable for Dammâseqian rule. Okay, so first of all, just to note here, neither of these are the location I wanted to go for, but that's fine. A claim is a claim. So Sa'aru to our south, or Erneh over here in the mountain. Now, Sa'aru is a better location in terms of... actually, I guess they're both kind of similar. Erneh is definitely less lush. This is all desert valley, which is one of the worst types of tiles in the game. But this is a location we need to get to, and it is a nice sort of place to go cap off here in the corner of around Mount Herman. So that would be good. Also, this does allow us to get the section of the Fige Springs ahead of our first planned war with Barada, and then we also get a little bit down here of Sa'aru ahead of that follow-up war. So that would be pretty smart, actually. Additionally, in terms of manpower, let me check and see. Because now, actually looking at this is helpful, because there's no more surprise for cohort levies. So these guys have 34 Canite Sa'aru. Wow, that is the hardest word to say in the universe. These guys have only 16 Canaanite Armenians. So these guys are going to be a very easy target. They may not even have 2 full cohorts. They might have 2 cohorts, but they're going to have at least 1 cohort. I don't know offhand how the math works out, but I don't even know if they have 2 full cohorts. Our starting levy should easily defeat these guys in the field. Against these guys, we do have the numbers advantage to be sure, but it's a bit more of a fair fight. Which means that we should probably attack Erneh first, because I don't like to take fair fights. I always like to pick on people that can't defend themselves, so that is the misadventure away. Which means that I think Erneh is going to be our first target here on February 1st. Bit of a weird first target, but it does give us control of this defensive terrain ahead of the slightly more substantial wars against Sa'aru and so on south of us, and it gives us another bit of territory next to our first planned target of Barada. Of course, we're gonna get a claim on Barada from the mission tree in a year, so that is not going to be too much of an issue. So let's go ahead and go for Erneh. Now, unfortunately, this does lose me loyalty with 2 characters, and I get loyalty with only 1. And one of the characters, Milkutun, is a family character who is going to go into disloyalty from this. Now, let me remind myself what I put him to do. He's the Master of the Guards. That's not an ideal position to have disloyalty in. But this modifier will go away eventually, and he only has 2 power base. So he's not actually going to cause any real problem for the nation. Having officers be disloyal isn't really a problem. It's when you have governors and generals or family heads that are disloyal. Either people who are controlling your territory or your armies, or people that can mess up your nation by giving you civil war tick. So this should be fine. He's not a family head, so I don't really care if he's disloyal temporarily. So let's go ahead and say that Hunabum speaks with clarity, we shall conquer Erneh. Alright, so yeah, that's fine. We're not at we are at 1.19% of the threshold, so we're perfectly fine. Right, okay, so with all that being said, let me go ahead and continue along here. So, we're going to go to war on the February 1st. I will actually go ahead, now I'm not going to do my levy quite yet, I'll do that in a moment. Economy-wise, we're going to go ahead and raise our maintenance just for this first war or 2, just to be extra safe. Getting a bit less happiness on our native population for the first year or 2 while these wars are going on isn't going to make or break the game, and this will just ensure we have no weird rolls. With the numbers advantage we have over these guys, it should be an absolute slaughter, but this will ensure it's even more of an absolute slaughter. So really no reason to not play it safe here. May as well go for that. We're not going to run this for the entire game, obviously. We're going to back down from this once we have secured this territory. But, yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. Whatever the case. Over here in religion, there are a lot of deities in this mod. There's quite a few, especially for the Canaanites. There's quite a few sort of depicted here. So I'm not necessarily going to go through every single option for each of these categories, but I will talk about the ones we currently have, as switching away would cost a lot of stability and PI, which I don't really want to spend quite yet, because stability is hard to get a lot of fast. You have to just kind of let it tick up. And starting the game with break-even stability isn't a bad idea for sure. So in terms of my initial actions, obviously I'm spotting Ishara as a pretty strong option here for pop assimilation speed. Also, there's not really any lore for these gods in the mod at the moment, but that's perfectly fine. This is a really strong bonus, and Freeman Happiness is a really strong passive, so she may be a permanent deity for our Pantheon. I'm not spotting... This is actually pretty good too, but I'm not spotting anybody else down here that is extremely powerful and would be better than Freeman Happiness pop simulation, so I think she's going to be a permanent fixture in the Pantheon. That being said, though, for the first 5-year period, we may want to pick a god that has an advantage that helps us immediately. So I'm kind of thinking about going for a knot for the discipline bonus. I wouldn't normally run a discipline omen very often, but I think for the first 5 years, we're going to probably be at war for most of the first 5 years, just in succession. Use up all of our starting manpower on the first 3 to 4 wars. We can probably make that work. We may have to hire those mercs that are standing in our capital over here at Dammâseq if we need to. 13 martial on these guys is very impressive. They're also led by somebody named Hannibal, which is a good sign. But whatever the case, I think a knot is probably a good call, because what I'll probably do is plan for after the first 5-year period when I reselect my omen, to maybe then switch over to Ishara to then assimilate all the places that I've conquered. We can kind of switch between them as we go from war to peacetime, recover up, do assimilation, then switch back to the wartime omen, and really just use these omens, flexibly. I think in previous campaigns, I've kind of talked about the idea of having like an Uber omen that I want to have to run at all times, and I think what I've realized is this is definitely a system that you need to kind of bounce around within. Similar thing with ideas as well. You want to actually switch around your national ideas when the situation calls for it. For example, we might switch from slave output to something like commerce later on if we think we're going to get a lot more money from commerce versus tax, or other modifiers. I think all 3 of these ideas are actually really strong for the entire game, even the start of the game. But definitely, we shouldn't forget that you can switch ideas very freely, and you should, even out of their slot, if you think it's the right time, right? So, for example, if we have extreme loyalty problems, we can always activate, central urban spaces as an option. We shouldn't forget about this mechanic. With omens, it's definitely the case that you should be switching around your omens every 5 years. Sometimes it makes sense to stay on the same omen, but I think you can really specialize your 5-year increments into different goals. So you think about it in terms of what is your goal for that omen's duration. So for the first 5 years, our goal is to explode onto the scene, taking on our neighbors, getting territory, and then the next 5 years, recover our manpower and get some progress on assimilating those population. Ultimately, we're never going to win the population and the levy size arms race because of there's no region splitting, so we can only get more military strength and size from converting, which we have to constantly do all the time when we have the opportunity. So unless we think that we can get away with a war without the discipline bonus, which we might be able to do with our starting size, we're going to run a knot, I think, for now. So we're going to go ahead and call on him, her, this, I don't know the gender of this god. They're going to just, I don't know what the situation is with that, but we're going to call on a knot, whatever the case may be. Also, by the way, a knot isn't a great god modifier-wise, normally speaking. If I could freely switch a knot away, I probably would. There's definitely some better options that I can spot already. Yeah, I think every option here is better than a knot, but I don't want to pay the stability to switch a god right now, so that's going to have to be what we do. So whatever the case, hold on. Yeah, so whatever the case, let's go ahead and select a knot for the first 5-year period, just for that discipline bonus. And then we're going to probably switch off of a knot onto probably a Shara in 5 years' time. Great. So again, no holy sites because of the changes I made to the game, to the mod, so that is the reason for that. We will probably build a holy site in Dammâseq and some other places around here later on. It's quite expensive, so there's no reason to do it too early. That would be definitely a bit of a waste. Culturally speaking, not going to do any of this stuff, although the mod does include this promote talent option that I think it borrowed from Invictus, which is nice to see that there. Also, the War Hero and Master Mariners are over here, again, I think from Invictus, so nice thing to see there. Trade-wise, we have access to 1 import route at the moment. Locally, we do have a surplus of ivory for extra civ level, that's quite nice. And also 4% noble happiness per copy, which is really good. We have 2 copies of grain, which is going to help our food situation. We can't see the food situation until February 1st. I assume at the moment we're going to have enough food with just 1 city and a whole bunch of oasis tiles, which are all going to generate 3 food per month and give a big food modifier, so that should be perfectly fine. Resource-wise, what do we want to get here? Well, one thing we could do is look and see at the trade goods that are here in the province. That's the wrong button. Here we go. So if we do colonize, we could get stone. Let's see here. So we could get 1 copy of vegetables, 1 copy of sheep, 1 copy of bricks. We could get 2 copies of reeds, and reeds is pretty strong for Freeman Happiness. Reads is 10% freeman happiness per copy. Reads is like a super resource in this mod I've discovered. I don't know, this seems like a mistake that it's balanced this way, but 10% freeman happiness per copy of Reads is outrageous, and having a surplus of Reads really... I mean, the build cost is nice, but the local effect of Reads is just really powerful. So we can have just overjoyed freemen by having Reads, multiple copies of Reads, in a location. So, whatever the case. In terms of what we want to get, though, yeah, and then stone as well. And then what do we have in the capital? Capital is a beer. Okay. Can we get a surplus of beer by chance? No, we cannot. The issue at the moment is we can't reach that many people with our diplomatic range, or our trade range. So I think what we probably want to do for now is just trade for something for value. Can we get dates, actually? We can't get dates. We already have the beer issue noted. Yeah, for now, I think I'll just trade for something for value. Probably honey. I think honey is the most valuable resource I can reach at the moment. I do want to get a surplus of fruit, if possible, because fruit is another really powerful resource. But I can only reach one copy at the moment from Ebla. So I think we'll trade for honey for now, because honey, if you can't get 2 copies of fruit, you should probably get 1 copy of honey, because honey is more valuable. The bonus is probably a bit better on fruit, but honey is more value. And also food modifier isn't bad either. It's a similar bonus, honestly. Just no province commerce. Well, that being said, is 0.1 gold difference better for the 2% commerce? Probably not, honestly. Although we could secure the fruit trade. That might not be a bad idea. Yeah, I think, you know what, let's actually secure this, because I really want the surplus bonus. 5 loyalty of characters for the fruit surplus is just an outrageous bonus, so I really do want to try and go for that if I can. So we'll trade with the Eblaites for their fruit. They get another copy of fruit. I will be happy to get that if I get another resource slot. Okay, so we looked at our army a moment ago. We'll come back to this in a moment. Mercenary-wise, there are a number of mercenaries who live around here, but we can't reach all of them. But we can reach these guys here with the 13 Marshal. Definitely quite good. Alright, diplomacy-wise, we do want to switch off of neutral stance, but there's really no need to quite yet. That's a bit of a waste of PI if there's not some immediate thing we need to do. One reason we could switch off a neutral stance is to switch directly into bellicose stance. Now, I should note, by the way, I do really miss that the Terra Indomita stances aren't in this mod. I know that that's like a Terra Indomita mechanic, but I really like those other stances that were added in. As it is, I think for this game, we're probably going to switch around between mercantile stance to get the commerce bonus, or bellicose stance for war making. Similarly to ideas, I think that there is merit to the idea of kind of flexibly switching your stance based on the situation. And if we have some PI sitting around, which I don't know if I will in my campaigns, but if we do, we can pay the big PI costs to do this big focus shift from mercantile to bellicose back and forth. I think that sometimes appeasing is good. Under very specific circumstances, if you're doing integration and whatnot, domineering is good. I don't think neutral is ever amazing. Maybe in some edge scenarios, but the way that I play this game, I do not like to rely on other AIs to facilitate my plans. The AI in this game is enormously unreliable, and I basically don't trust the AI to ever do anything I need them to do. In fact, I probably won't even pick up an ally before my war against Erneh, even though it could benefit from that, because I just don't trust the AI to not somehow screw up my plans one way or another. So neutral stance is not the way for me. And between the two of them, we don't have a lot of commerce income right now because we barely have any trade going on, because again, we're far away from all the big, trading hotspots of the world right now. So as it is, we don't really have a lot of commerce to boost by adopting mercantile stance. So I think bellicose might be the most helpful. The opinion malice for our neighbors and whatnot isn't that big of a deal. I'm going to get a lot of aggressive expansion from my warlike ways, so I don't really think that this is going to really change the sort of situation we're going to have diplomatically that much. It's only going to give us some benefits, reducing war score costs, reducing our AE impact and whatnot. I'll come back to this because I may want to do a law change instead. I'll think about that. Right, so technology-wise, I think I'm going to do my standard opening for tech, especially because of my ruler's traits. I think we need to do this more than usual, and that's to go for my opening of coming down and grabbing Town Criers. I think I've commented about this before, but I think Town Criers is the best early-game tech if you have just 4 innovations. A lot of nations in the game and in the base game start with 4 innovations available, because monthly PI 10% is a really, really strong bonus, and it's just good to get this early on. PI bonuses are good to stack up early on. So what we're probably going to do is go through legal patronage. So loyalty of characters +2. We'll grab centralized committees on the way. It's not on the way down, but it's a good thing to grab. because it's a strong bonus to get early on before you do any policy changes for governors, and it gives you access to census data later on when you get another innovation, and this is a really strong one to get as well. So then we're going to go through official orators and then come down to town criers. So legal patronage, a system of legal sponsorship will establish a means of hierarchy within the echelons of our realm. Centralized committees, standardizing the bureaucratic tools of our governors by providing them with competent assistance, will improve the effectiveness of local government by cutting inefficiency. Official orators, employing skilled speakers to proclaim our decrees, laws, and decisions will lessen the chance of fomenting dissent in our populace. And lastly, town criers, employing skilled orators on our behalf will allow us to anonymously spread the truth about those wicked enough to act against our interests. The trial success chance bonus and the smear reputation bonus are both handy situationally, but I don't really do those mechanics that often as a kingdom. But it's mostly for the monthly PI gain, and it's in a pretty strong area of the tech tree over here in the oratory advance area. So definitely gonna grab that. Good stuff. Alright, and then we looked at the characters earlier, we looked at the missions earlier. We're basically ready to go ahead and unpause, so let's go ahead and get our army ready as well for the Erneh war. Now, I don't think these guys will pick up an ally in the first month, but it could happen, and in case they do, it'd probably either be Barada or Sa'aru, so we should be positioned in a place where we could react to that. I think, honestly, we can probably safely just stand in Kudsea, which has a lot of supply, I'm assuming because it's an oasis, and then just move in to Erneh. Now, the desert valleys are going to interfere with our invasion a little bit. It's going to reduce our movement by 20% to move through here, and generally speaking, it's going to be kind of rough terrain to move through, but should be fine. They have a very defensible fort over here at Erneh, but I think we should be able to make it over and beat their tiny army with no real problems. So let's raise the force here. We have the very cool Bronze Age model, led directly by Ipter Dagan I. No need for a mercenary leader. 6 marshal should be fine. Unless this guy is a martial god. He has 7 marshals, so he is better than us, but he doesn't have the numbers to really do anything about our 6 marshals, so we should be fine. We've got archers, spearmen, and skirmishers here in the force. And the way this works, by the way, all this stuff is rebalanced from the base game. Skirmishers are weak against archers and chariots, but they counter axemen. Axemen are a really strong unit that counters a lot of other units, so skirmishers are kind of a specialized anti-axeman unit. Spearmen obviously are good against chariots. Chariots in this time period are really the most powerful part of most armies. We're in a pre-heavy infantry point in time, so chariots are really the core of strong armies, but we don't have any chariots at the moment. Actually, I'm not sure if we can have chariots from our... Let me see if I can find where it says this. Where does it say the army composition? I know it says it somewhere. Hold on. Why am I not able to find this? I know where it is on the select screen, but I don't know where to find it. Oh, here it is. Okay, yeah. So we don't have any chariots as a Dammâseq nation. That's fine, though. As long as we're just aware of who does have chariots, we can plan around that to some extent. So, yeah, so spearmen counter chariots and heavy chariots as well. They're weak against axemen, so axemen, again, are a good, pretty strong infantry unit. And spearmen also critically are strong against donkeys, so it's very important in this mod. Donkeys are the most powerful unit in the game, so you definitely want to have a strong anti-donkey component to your army. I'm just kidding. But supply trains are important for sure, and as our levy grows, we're going to have to make use of them pretty carefully. Archers are good against chariots, and they're good against skirmishers, so they're the anti-axemen, so they're against the axeman counter. So archers are good to support axemen. They're also good against donkeys, incidentally, but otherwise, most other units shred through archers. Heavy chariots especially just obliterate them, but spearmen, heavy chariots, and axemen counter archers. So heavy chariots can also support chariots against archers. You can see how the way it's been remodified here kind of makes it a bit more of a sort of strategy-style rock, paper, scissors dynamic. But with levies, we don't really have a lot of control over what our units are. We just have to kind of be aware of what we get from our culture. Whatever the case, let's go ahead and make sure these guys are set right. Let's do hold the line. I think that's probably going to work. Right, so we're going to let our marshal build up. I think even though we're not going to be at full morale, or not marshal, let our morale build up. We're not going to be at full morale on February 1st, but I think we should be fine to go ahead anyways. Right. Okay, I think we're ready to go ahead and unpause the game yeah, let's go ahead and do just that. Not going to pick up an ally for the reasons I talked about earlier. Don't think it's necessary. If my target picks up an ally, I'll pick up an ally in reaction, but I'm not going to do it preemptively. The AI in this mod seems to be a bit more bloodthirsty and doesn't really ally with each other as often. They just fight each other more often, so let's go ahead and unpause the game and get this campaign going. Right. So I think we should be fine, but we shall see if anything surprising happens with Erneh. I'm excited about this campaign, folks. The matter of Herman. The region of Herman has remained a valuable source of trade and commerce for our nation for many long years. Many amongst the court insist that such a bountiful land would serve much better purpose if fully integrated under the Dammâseqian banner. Of course, as with all matters of state, many are in opposition, claiming that a healthy relationship with their neighbors is far more important than a wanton land grab. The leaders of each side have presented their arguments and asked for an arbitration as to which method would be more appropriate in our dealings with the various states resident in Herman. We long for friendship and cooperation. So this may seem a bit counterintuitive to what I just talked about, but the reason I'm doing that is because the friendship and cooperation modifier that you get from that line of options, I think, is better overall than the other one. That's just my opinion about that. So we can now go to war with Erneh because it's been 1 month. Before we do that, though, let me take a look at the food situation over here in our capital province, Damascus Oasis. Yeah, 23 food per month is a lot, but it's also less than you may be expecting, given that we have 4 oases, 3 of which are on the river. So we're eating a lot of food with just our current population of only 50 or so. So once we get more population, and especially more cities in this area, we're going to need to possibly rely on importing food to keep things going. So this definitely makes this mechanic of the game a bit more complicated and interesting. Whatever the case, let's go for it. We're going to go ahead and take the Fige Spring province from them, which is just their capital, Erneh. We're going to take the other stuff as well, obviously, but should be fine. They shouldn't really have any way to react to us. I guess they could hire the mercenaries. If they do that, we may have to pay off the mercenaries with our money, but I think we should be fine monetarily to do that. So let's go ahead and get this war going. Alright, declare war on Erneh using war goal take Fige Spring. Alright, the Canaanite local power of Erneh have all rallied together to defend in this war. Here we go, let's just move right in. If they spawn over here, this is a pretty good defensive spot. This is probably the best place. Their best play is to just post up at Erneh and force me to attack them in the desert valley over the river. So we'll see what they do, but that would be clever of them if they did that. Whatever the case. This should be a relatively straightforward war. I'm not going to assault Erneh, by the way, even though I won't have any other targets right after, because I want to preserve my manpower for my follow-up wars that I plan to do. We do have a lot of manpower at the start here. Are they not going to raise themselves before I get there? I think I'm going to get there before they raise. Oh! Oh no, I was wrong. I was looking at the wrong spot. Okay, we are going to get there after they raised, but they're partial morale. Even with all the terrain benefits, the game correctly assesses that I'm going to win this fight handily. So this might be a little painful manpower-wise, but as long as we're still over 1k, should be fine. Because, by the way, in this mod, each cohort is worth 250, not 500. That's why we have 1.5k, not 3k with our 6 cohorts. So just to clarify that. You may have noticed that earlier when I was looking at the army, but I didn't directly say that. Also, let me go ahead and make sure that this is set up properly here. Probably put spearmen in the front, archers behind, skirmishers on the side. I think that's probably the right way to do this. Yeah. Alright, and let's see how this first fight goes. The Battle of Erneh, first fight of the campaign. Let's see how the people of Dammâseq perform against our mountain valley, or desert valley neighbors. Alright, here we go. Off to a good start. Yeah, these guys are definitely not doing too great. Taking big damage, even with our bad terrain modifiers. Pretty bad rolls on both sides. That was a pretty good roll. Okay, so that was a pretty good trade-off, honestly, given all the terrain malices and our lower martial. Sure, they had the numbers, but they could still have pulled off more kills. So we did win in terms of the ratio of damage taken to damage dealt. They're going to run away now. And I think we're just going to stay put, because they shouldn't have the numbers to siege any of my stuff down. If they were to siege this, for example, that could be irritating. But at this point, we just have to start... you know, I guess we could follow them. I don't know where they're going to, though. Oh, they're probably coming down here, actually. So let me actually... Oh, I can't follow them. Never mind, because of the zone of control. So let's just wait here. Start their siege. Yeah, they're going to be able to safely come down to Beit Tema because of the zone of control. That's fine, though. If from down here, they're probably going to try to re-attack me. If they come back up here, I might jump out to go attack them and try to stack wipe them, just to protect my smaller province, but should be fine. Now it's just a waiting game. And we'll see if they decide to pick up an ally or hire those mercenaries. Then we have to kind of react to that. But for now, it's just going to be a matter of letting the siege happen. Not too much we can do to speed this up. We could do an assault, but again, I don't think it's a very good idea. Okay, they're going to come over this direction. If they try to siege down Dammâseq, they're not going to do a great job. Yeah, they're going to go siege it down. They're not going to have the numbers to actually start the siege even. I think you need 1k to do a siege. Yeah, so I guess they're just going to hold the fort down, but not too much of an effect. This is a siege race. We're definitely going to win. So now we just kind of let this proceed. So while this is going on, we can lower our army maintenance probably safely. I think if they get mercenaries or they bring in an ally, we'll raise army maintenance again in reaction, but I think for now we can lower army maintenance safely. Sounding out the opposition, debate has raged for many years over our rocky relationship with the nation-states resident in Herman. Siri Basani, a nation many in Dammâseq call a friend, stands well placed to provide us with assistance in our endeavors to control Herman. Many of our more warlike advisors, however, seem intent on burning all bridges and laying waste to Siri Basanian lands in an effort to further advance our cause. Benevolent image is the way to go. That is going to give us the best modifier overall. Alright, no allies or anything surprising there, so that should be fine. Yeah. In situations, I'm not going to go to decreased pay because that's pretty risky while you're at war, but I will, yeah, lowering it down. Look at the model here, by the way, with the robe. That's pretty cool. Food shortage over here, that's pretty good. What's our attrition? Like 1% attrition? That's not that bad, honestly. We have the manpower to maintain this, to be sure. Alright, so we should be finishing this war probably around the time the mission claims are coming in, so we can then go to war with Barada right away. Barada has no allies at the moment, so they should be a pretty safe next target. Then we can also complete our claim, or complete our partial control of the province of Fissure Spring. Also, Fissure Spring does have fruit, so we can potentially get a fruit surplus through internal trade. So I'm going to siege down my stuff, which is, they're also going to ignore my fort rules, which is something the AI loves to do. They shouldn't be allowed to move here from where they were, but whatever. They may take a slave or two, but we'll take the slaves back when we siege down their capital. Defender's Desert, that's a pretty good roll. They're going to go around the fort through the uncolonized, which is hilarious because this is uncolonized and it's marsh, so it's going to be pretty slow going over there. I think we're going to win this pretty quick here. Alright, yeah, they're going to siege the stuff down. It's a bummer, but there's not too much I can do, and we get the stuff back after my fort retakes it. Oh, they're going straight for Dammâseq. It's fine by me. I think we're fine as it is. Alright. Speed this up to speed 3 because we're just waiting for the siege. Oh, we have a son. I guess my wife got pregnant. His name is Garamilki. Alright. Which is a similar name to his mom's last name. Alright, so a son has been born to Ipter Dagan I. We're told the baby is named Garamilki Abarid. He is a pretender to become king. Well, he's not going to be a pretender for long. He's going to be the heir in just a moment, on the monthly tick probably. So I think this fixes our succession crisis. Yeah, here he is, Garamilki. Kind of a weird name, but all the names are kind of weird when you really think about it. Let's not be too judgmental of this culture from, 2,000, 3,000... I guess from today it'd be 4,000 years ago, technically, but yeah. Succession support is very strong because he is the son, so we don't need to switch off of our succession law for now, because we now have a son and a daughter, so that's pretty good. Alright. The sacking of Erneh. Ipter Dagan I Abarid has led his men to glorious victory during the siege of Erneh. The enemy flee in disgrace, and all that is left is to decide on how to treat the residents within. Needless to say, the spoils of war likely to cause those back in Dammâseq to admire Ipter Dagan greatly, but leaving such wealth in the hands of one man could cause problems in the future. Okay, since we're playing as the character that took the city, that's why we get or took the capital, that's why we get a sacking event. 200 days for that siege, that's pretty good. So we could get None Shall Hide and get Cruel. Cruel is a double-edged sword because you get ticking tyranny. But other than that, it's a pretty good modifier. Reducing charisma isn't that big of a deal. He already has kind of low charisma, so it's fine. Enslavement efficiency is handy, and slave output obviously is quite strong for the home region. I honestly think Cruel is a better trait than a worse trait for a monarchy. For a republic, it's not that great. Although then you're switching out your characters anyway, so it'd probably be okay. I think we're going to go for this. Also keeping in mind that these guys are not of my culture, meaning I don't necessarily need them to be surviving, which means that this, which kills a bunch of them, won't be the end of the world. And this is not going to be a long-term city location, so I won't even want people over here. This is in the middle of this mountain valley area that I don't really want a lot of presence within, so we're going to go ahead and just take as much money as we can. None Shall Hide. Alright, did not depopulate it, which is great. Let's come down and grab Beit Tema and then piece these guys out before something weird happens. Not that I think something will, but you never know with this game. Something weird always seems to happen at the worst time. Which I appreciate, though. I like how this game has so much kind of, events that pop up, kind of, what do you call it, emergent gameplay. It makes a game that is as kind of, our army's under attack. Oh, hello, barbarian horde. I did not see you there. Did these guys just spawn here? What is this? Did they come from here? No, this isn't even a barb spot. I don't have any explanation for where this barbarian horde came from, but alright, I guess we're doing a fight here against these 500 barbarians. They have an axeman in their ranks, but I think we should be fine. They don't have any names for their cohorts. Also, the icons are very hard to see with this backdrop, but I mean, we have the morale advantage. Oh yeah, we just stack wiped them. There was a lot of war exhaustion. Wait, no, that was them. We gained a little bit. Yeah, okay, whatever. We profited greatly with 0 gold. Yeah, this is a bit glitchy, but well, I guess we encountered some barbarians and swiftly dispatched them. So I guess that is that's good. I don't know how to explain that one, but fair enough. We're gonna win the war in just a moment here once we get this, and then we can piece these guys out and proceed on from there. Right, they might piece out now. We may need to wait until the monthly tick. They'll piece out now. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab this. Ernehian Sa'aru to Dammâseq, and Ernehian Fissure Spring to Dammâseq as well. That's 4 AE, that's pretty manageable for now. We need AE in order for our AE reduction to be put to use. Same with things like War Exhaustion and Tyranny. We're about to get some Tyranny in just a moment. I'm sure you all know exactly what's coming up in just a moment here. Let's go ahead and take this deal. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at the this thing here first. My king, the Canaanite local power of Erneh, accepts our generous peace offer, which I just read a moment ago. After a protracted conquest, we have finally routed the Ernehian armies and laid waste to their lands. During the sacking of their capital, many important prisoners were taken, many of them having previously held important positions in the Ernehian clan council. They now languish in our dungeons awaiting whatever fate we decide to impose upon them. So I'm probably going to go ahead and imprison their leaders and do some selling off into slavery. This is a really important way to get bursts of money in the early game before you have a big economy going. You mostly have to just be a slaver and enslave the nobles of those you defeat. Defeating and getting slaves requires you to sort of tag delete nations, so that's what we've done here by leaving them no remaining territory so we get to their nation ceases to exist. And this is probably going to be worth something around 50 gold to sell all these nobles. It's going to also be worth quite a bit of tyranny, so we shouldn't overlook that. But as long as we aren't getting too out of hand with tyranny, we can keep it under control. Tyranny actually isn't even a bad thing to stack up as a king, because it boosts up your slave output and some other kind of good modifiers. It does cause loyalty problems, but as long as you manage your loyalty and your civil war threshold through other means, you can actually run a high tyranny kingdom for quite a while. So we're going to be possibly doing that in this campaign in order to make money. So imprison their leaders, let the rest disappear. The Arameans are not going to be pleased with this, but they're going to all become my people, the Dammâseq in time. So I don't really care what they think. Okay, so there we go. Let's go ahead and sell these guys right now. So the way that value for selling into slavery is determined is the stats of the character. So this guy here Yeah, 9 gold, that's what I would expect for having the stats he has. You have to look at all the stats he has, or that they have, and add them together. And then there's some math that I don't know offhand that determines how that translates to value. But because selling someone into slavery always costs 0.5 tyranny, my general rule, at least for this campaign, is probably going to be, if they're below 7 gold to sell, it's probably not worth 0.5 tyranny. So let's go ahead, and then you could just release them for no tyranny gain or loss. So let's sell that guy, this guy here, 5 gold, and release this guy. You, 11.50, that's very worth it. You have some good stats for sure, 10.50. You're more of a question. 9, I'll sell you. Down here, 10.50. 16 gold? Hold on. Who is this? Damn, this is like a goddess down here. Alyssa Matinid. Damn, okay. Can I make you... Oh yeah, I can't have a female gladiator. That'd be kind of cool to make this person a gladiator because she has 8 martial, but no female gladiators allowed. That's too bad. So let's go ahead and sell you then. 16 gold is crazy though. This guy here, probably pretty valuable. 13.50. That was a pretty good set of nobles. Yeah, we're at 3.5 tyranny now. That's perfectly manageable. Okay, good stuff. Let's go ahead and think about this for a second here. So in about a month and a bit, we're going to get those claims, so we can then immediately go to war again. Barada still has no allies, and Sa'ari still has no allies. I think we go for Barada first. Let's actually have our levy just do this next war as well. Come back up to Kudsaya to prep for that. Now, in terms of... I didn't even look at my own territories earlier, so let me just check really quick. No buildings. No buildings over here, most likely, I'm assuming. And we'll go ahead and destroy the fort over here. I'm not going to keep this as a fort. This is not going to be the capital, obviously, in the area, so perfectly fine. Down here, this won't be the capital down here for long either, but we don't have any more territory down here to move it to, so we'll leave it as it is. So you guys come back up here. And yeah, let's go ahead and resume. Yeah, so we probably didn't get any... Yeah, our levy didn't change in size, because the people we just took over are all of the Aramean culture, which is obviously not our own Dammâseq culture. So these guys here are going to have to be assimilated, and we'll have to attend to that later. I guess I could go ahead and put this place onto assimilation. It doesn't hurt to do that even during wartime when we're not running the assimilation omen. And we do have the cheaper change governor policies because of having the innovation that we've done already. So I think with that in mind, okay, we'll go ahead and switch to cultural assimilation here. I could again spend my PI to switch over my stance, but I think it's better to save my PI to switch my policies like this. I guess I could also do my stance change now. I guess I just, I could have switched to Bellicose a moment ago to get a little bit of a cheaper deal, but it's not that big of a deal. We have perfectly manageable AE right now. I think Mercantile might actually be better at the moment for... Well, you know what, actually, that's 40 or 30 PI for the stance isn't necessary at the moment, so let's just leave it as it is. Save our PI for other purposes at the moment. Changing around our stances went on. Like, for example, one thing I might do... I can reach Acer? Really? Wow, okay. You know, actually, you know what the reason is? They have import value 100%. No, not that one. Diplomatic range 200%. Acer can reach friggin' everybody because of their heritage. So I just remember that that's something they have. So they can reach me. That's why we're getting a message from Acer. I was like, that's way too far away. They want to import my stone. I guess I'll send it to them. That's fine. Right, what was I doing? Oh yeah. I think in Damascus Oasis, I might switch off of Encourage Trade. Now that we know that our food is under control, and we're not really getting a lot of commerce money from this area at the moment. Commerce is very minimal. I think it'd be better, actually... Let's see here. It's 100% Dammâseq, 100% Canaanite. I could go to Bleed Them Dry, which is cheesy, but it is kind of for free. Because think about this, right? In your capital province, your loyalty is always at 100. And our food is, I think, manageable even on Bleed Them Dry. We have a lot of food coming in from our oases. And Slave Happiness doesn't have an impact on output, it just improves it. So Slave Happiness does affect unrest, but it doesn't affect the slave output, because that's how slaves work in this game. And unrest doesn't matter if there's no provincial loyalty, which is the case here. So Bleed Them Dry is actually for free, except for the food thing. But 24% more local tax, 16% more commerce. We should see this number increase substantially. Okay, well, it wasn't a substantial increase, but it was an increase. It's going to get better over time as we keep investing in this area. So I think that was probably not the worst idea in the world. We'll see what effects that has later on. We'll see also on the monthly tick exactly what the province food's going to be at with that change in mind. We have to wait now a few more days for that court to finish on January 1st, then we can go to war. Perfect timing, actually, for our army to be in position here. The court speaks. Rhetoric and debate have raged for a full year. The court in Dammâseq has reached a final stance on the matter of Herman. Drawing a sharp breath, the herald recites, "Protect the weak of Herman." Right. So, I think we could wait a little bit longer just to be at full manpower, full levy size. But I think these guys should be relatively free. 29. We definitely have... They may have 3 cohorts? I don't know. But definitely they're not going to have 6 cohorts. What's their king? 7 marshal again. That should be fine. Yeah, so I think we're going to just attack into Barada. But that's going to have to happen that in the next episode of the campaign. Sorry, I got a little tongue-tied there. But thank you so much for watching this episode of the Dammâseq Campaign. Having a lot of fun so far. This is definitely a pretty fun technical opening, a very aggressive opening, but I think we can definitely maintain the momentum. I have so much practice with Imperator Rome now that I feel really confident about playing this game. Even if I'm playing it slowly and sort of thoroughly, I can play it at a pretty high level and do stuff, you know, at a good brisk pace here without overextending. Whatever the case, next time we're going to go ahead and go to war with Barada, and then turn our attention south and continue the march across the plains next to the desert, and start to establish ourselves as a serious regional force. So with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.